Welcome back to Namaste Node.js Season 2 and we are building Dev Tinder. In the previous episode, we saw how you can write an API to send a connection request from one user to another user, right? So a user can hit an API call and send the connection request to the other user, right? Either they can send an interest, right? Either they can be interested in their profile or they can ignore the profile, right? So we wrote this API, right? Remember? Request send, and over here the status was ignored if the user is ignoring the profile. If the user is interested in the profile, then the status is interested and we send the user ID. So this is how you will send the connection request. This was from the sender side of things. Today in this episode we are continuing for this journey of building these APIs, and now let us focus on building our next API, which is the review request API. This review request API for the receiver's end, it is on the receiver's end. Suppose if a lot of people are sending me the connection request, right? Suppose you are sending me the connection request. So now I will hit a review API, right? So review means I'm reviewing my connection request, and I can, in the review, I can either accept this connection request or I can reject this connection request. Okay, so this is the API that we will write. Now, the first thing I want to tell you is that, see, this API is for accepting the connection request. This API is for rejecting the connection request. The logic for both the APIs will be very, very same. So you don't have to make two different API for accepting and rejecting the connection request. No, you can just use one API just like we did over here, right? We made this status dynamic. Similarly, we can make the status dynamic over here also. Okay, how will I make the status dynamic? Let me just show it to you. So you just do this and one API will do all your job, right? One API will do all this job. Cool, right? So over here, right, review, request, review, and over here if there will be accepted, so we will accept the request. If rejected, so we will reject the request. That's how easy it is, isn't it? So instead of creating these two APIs, I will just create this one API and our job will done, my dear friends. So let us just start writing code for this. Are you excited or not? Let us just write the code now. Okay, so where will I write code? Tell me. I told you in the last episode, we will write it inside connection request router. Where is my connection request router? If I go to my folder structure, I will find routes. Inside the routes, I have a request. And over here, if I will go, I will see there is already one API which we created in the last episode, right? So now below this, I will create one more API and the name of that API is request review, right? So let me just copy this because I don't want to write that long thing again. Right, so I will just do a request router, right? Request router and post, and then I can pass in this API over here. Do I need a user auth over here? Always, the first thing is the request body, right? Sorry, not request body, this URL, the request path. The second thing you have to think about the middlewares. Do you want the auth middleware for this API? Yes, I want the user to be logged in. You are sending me a connection request. I should be logged in to accept it, right? Not without logging in, you cannot accept any connection request. I don't want my API to work without login. So I would need the user auth over here, right? I will need the user auth over here. What will this user auth do? Tell me. This user auth will check whether the token which is coming over here is valid or not, whether the cookie has the token and the token is valid, and then it will find out the information about the logged in user and it will get the logged in user in the database and it will call the next function, right? So basically it will, if everything works fine, so we will move to the request handler. Where is the request handler? This is my request handler. Cool. So if everything is good, if the user is properly logged in and there is a logged in user in our database, this API will be called, this request handler will be called. Oh my God, I did something bad. Cool. Now this, okay. So this is my request handler. Over here in the request, right, a logged in user will be attached automatically, isn't it? Logged in user is my request.user. Over here, this is the logged in user. Okay, this is the logged in user is attached into request.user. This was done by user auth. Now I will write the logic for, now I will write all the logic for my review API, right? But before that, let me wrap everything around try catch, because you should always use try catch, right? And then over here in the error, I can just do a response.status 400 error message, cool. And I will just add this code in my try catch block. Cool. Now everything looks good. Now I will have to write logic to accept the connection request. Okay. Now I will have to write logic to accept the connection request. But first of all, let us write that logic in theory. Okay. Always, whenever you are writing the logic for API calls, make sure you cover all the corner cases. Make sure before writing any code in your head, you are clear about what you are going to write. And have you covered all the corner cases or not? Right? Let us take an example and let me show it to you. Suppose Akshay is sending the connection request to Elon, right? In the last episode, we did that. Remember, if I go to my connection request, if I refresh it, do you see this connection request interested? This 91D is Akshay and 7BF is Elon, right? So Akshay was the from user and Elon was the to user. So Akshay was sending connection request to 2 and the request is in interested state. Right? The request is in interested state. Then, right? So Akshay is sending to Elon, right? Now, first of all, what things we need to check, right? We need to check, is Elon login, right? Is Elon the logged in user, right? Our API should only, suppose if Akshay is sending to Elon, so the logged in user should be Elon, right? And this API call only should work if the logged in user is Elon, right? If the logged in user is actually the person of the to user ID. So see, from user ID is Akshay, to user ID is Elon. So to user ID is basically the receiver. So always the receiver should be the same person who is the logged in person. It should not be like I have sent the connection request to Elon and I can myself approve it. No, I cannot accept it. Or maybe Virat Kohli accepted the connection request which Akshay sent to Elon. No, it cannot happen. Only the to user ID person can accept it. This to user ID person, right? The to user ID person is Elon right now. So only Elon is authorized to accept this connection request. Cool. Now we also have to make sure that the status, right? The status over here, see, suppose what can be the different type of statuses of our connection request, right? We know, let us go to the models, let us see. The status can either be ignored, the status can either be interested, the status can either be accepted or rejected, right? Sorry, there is a typo, accepted. Let me just correct it, ACCEPTED, okay? My bad, cool. But the status can be either ignored, interested, accepted or rejected. There can only be 4 status. Now, I am approving, I am accepting the connection request or I am rejecting the connection request. That can only happen if the existing connection request is in interested state. Suppose if the user has ignored, right? If the connection request status is ignored. So suppose the user 1 has ignored this user. So this is Akshay and I don't know who this is. I think this is Virat or Mahendra Singh Dhoni or, no, sorry, Mark, I guess. This is Mark, I remember, right? So Akshay has sent the connection request to Mark and he has not sent the connection request. He has ignored the profile. Okay, Akshay ignored the profile of Mark. Now, if the connection request is in ignored state, nobody can change this now. Not even Mark, not even Akshay, not even, in Tinder also it is like that, right? Suppose if you left swipe the profile, you are not going to reverse your decision. I think now they have a way of paying money and reversing the decision. But understand that, okay, in Dev Tinder, once you have rejected someone, you will not be able to send them connection request again, right? Once you ignored, you can never send them interested again, okay? So this is how Dev Tinder is. So if the status is ignored, we will not accept or reject, right? There is no way of accepting or rejecting this connection request. Got it? So what I will do, the status should definitely be interested, right? This is my third use case. Status should be interested. If the status is not interested, then, it's not good, right? So Elon should be logged in. That means the logged in user should be the to user ID, right? The to user ID should be the logged in user ID, isn't it? The to user ID should be the logged in user's ID, isn't it? And status should be interested. Now what I will do, I will also have to check, right, a lot of things, right? What else can I check? So think about it, right? Take a moment, you also think, let me also think it loudly. So see, I am thinking that suppose if Elon has sent me connection request, so what I have to make sure is that, okay, the status over here should definitely be interested. If there is something else apart from interested, the status is not allowed, right? The status over here should be accepted or rejected. If there is, yes, the status, we have to do validation on this status, right? Somebody, suppose if sending something gibberish, right? Suppose if somebody is sending XYZ, so it should not work, right? So we have to check for allowed statuses also, right? I can also check for, so first of all, we need to validate the status. Okay, this is what I will do. Then I will validate the request ID also, and I will check whether this request ID which the user is sending is belonging to Elon or not, right? Is the Elon right person, or is the logged in user the correct appropriate user for accepting that connection request? Then I will check whether the status is interested or not, and then I will continue. So I think I have thought about a lot of cases. I cannot find it. There can be one more case that, okay, this request ID can be invalid. So I will also have to check if the request ID is invalid or not, right? Request ID should be valid, right? Should be valid. That means should be present in our database, right? If it is not present in our database, I cannot change it, right? That is very much logical. You don't have to write also. But I think I have covered a lot of cases. Now, once you have planned this API, now see me writing code. Okay, don't just directly start writing code, because it becomes very tough, right? Because you don't understand now what should I write. So allowed status, first of all, I will do allowed status. Remember, in the last API also we were checking the allowed status are only ignored and interested. So in this API, the user can either accept or reject. That's it, right? So the user can either accept. So the allowed status in our API will be, shall I copy paste this? Okay, let me not copy paste. Let me write it down fully, because that will inspire you also to write down fully. Okay, you also write down, don't copy paste. Okay, I can either accepted the status over here. Basically, whenever somebody is calling this API, they should either pass accepted or rejected. If they are passing XYZ, if they are passing ignored, interested, we will not allow anything, right? Only accepted or rejected is allowed in this API. Okay, so accepted or rejected. If my status does not belong to allow status, so allow status dot include not logged in user. My autocomplete is high today, right? It is just suggesting me random stuff, right? This status, if it is not in allowed status, then I will either throw an error or I can just return the response from here, right? So I can just return the response from here, return response dot status, and then I can say 400, and then I can, did I miss anything? Why is return? Okay, I think I missed this. Yep, now this looks good, right? Status 400, and then I will just send, or I can just send the JSON, and inside that JSON I can send a message, right? This is a good format. Message, and this message should be, right, status not valid or not allowed. Okay, status is not allowed. So if you're trying to send something else, this status is not allowed. Now this status is coming from where? This status is coming from here, right? How will I read this? Can I write it directly like this? No, my dear friends, I will have to read it. I will have to extract it, right? I will have to extract this status from where? From my request.params. You are absolutely right. Request.params, I can get this status from my request.params, and request ID, I can also get my request ID, right, from my request.params. Cool. So this is the logic of validating the status. Now my API, suppose if somebody is trying to hit the API with wrong status, we will not allow it. Okay. So now what we will do, now we will, once this is correct, right? Once we have seen that, okay, this status is correct. Now we will check if the request ID is present in my database or not, right? How will I find out? And let me also tell you how will I write this, right? I will find the connection request. I will try to find this connection request and await from my connection request dot connection request model connection request connection request dot, and now I will try to find, right? I will try to find one, right? Find one connection request, and this connection request should have the ID of my request ID, right? The connection request have my ID of the request ID. And what else this connection request should have? This connection request to user ID, right? Remember, this is the very important thing. The connection request to user ID, the to user ID should be the same of the person who is logged in. So suppose if Elon Musk is logged in, so this connection request should have the to user ID of Elon Musk, right? The logged in user dot underscore ID, okay? And then the status of this connection request should be interested. If the status of this connection request is not interested, then we should not find it, right? Basically, we have to make sure that the status of this connection request is interested, okay? So we have kept a strict check over here. I am finding a request in my database. See, I am trying to find a request in my database which has the request ID of this, right? Whatever the user is passing in. The to user should be the logged in user. It should not be someone else. Basically, this check will make sure that Elon Musk is the one who is accepting the request and the request ID is correct, and the status should be interested. There should not be, suppose if the request is already in accepted state and somebody is trying to accept again, so there will not be any request found, right, with that status. Okay, so now what we will do, once we have checked the connection request, we have found the connection request. If we found this connection request with all these parameters, right, I have found one, then I will basically, so see, I have made the check, logged in user should be user ID over here, status should be interested, status is interested, request ID should be valid. Yes, so the request ID will only be valid, right? Otherwise it will not find from the database, right? So we have kept all these checks. Now what I will do, suppose if I don't find any such connection request, right? Suppose, right, if I don't find any such connection request, right? So I will tell my user, right, I will just return from here, I will say 404, right? I can just say 404 and message should be that connection request not found, right? As simple as that. As simple as that, okay? I will just say status is 404 and JSON message connection request is not found. Cool. Suppose if I find a connection request where the request ID is matching, the status is interested, and the to user ID is the same as the logged in user, then I am safe to change the status. Now I can safely modify my status. I can just say connection request dot status, and then I can change this status to the status, and this status is something which is coming from the params, and we have already validated it. I am just pushing the status over here. So basically earlier the status is interested. Now I am adding the status, either it is accepted or rejected over here, and I have already validated this status should be in the allowed list, right? Our allowed list. Cool. Now what I will do, I will just basically connection request dot save, right? I will save the API now, and I will just do await save, and whatever data I will get back, basically this will give me the modified connection request. So I will get that data back. Now once everything is successful, I can just send the success data, right? success data, I will say connection request. So the message should be connection request accepted or rejected, something like that. Let us make it dynamic. If I will say like this, so it will say connection request accepted or rejected, and then in the message, and then the second parameter, I can just send back the data, right? I can send the data back. Cool. Cool. Now I think the code looks good to me. Let us just revise the code once again and then we will test it. Okay. Let us just revisit the code once again and then we will test it. Okay. So suppose if somebody is sending me the connection request, let us first of all make this in Postman. Okay. Let us also create this in Postman and then I will dry run also. Okay. Let me just duplicate this send request. I am duplicating this. I am adding this request over here. I can add this request, review request, and let me just say review, and then the status can be accepted or rejected. Accepted, right? Accepted, right? And then I can send the request ID. This request ID can be this ID, right? So over here, this is the, this is the, this is the request ID of the request which Akshay has sent to Elon, right? So added this ID. Now, before I hit send over here, before I hit send, let us just dry run it. Suppose if the user is sending accepted and a request ID. So what will my code do? It will first of all check for the logged in user, whether the user is authenticated or not. Suppose if somebody is logged in, right? So I will get that login user. Now I will check whether the data which is coming over here is accepted or rejected, right? Suppose if there is something wrong I sent, it should not work. Then I will find a connection request. I will find one connection request which has the request ID as the same. And to user ID is logged in user ID and status is interested, right? That's it. And then if it is not found, then I would say connection request not found. And then I will modify the status and save it. Simple, right? It is not that hard, isn't it? Just read it once again, right? Take a moment, pause this video, read this code once again and understand, was there something that you cannot write? Was it clicking to you or not, right? So it is, sometimes see, writing the logic inside this API is something that you will have to learn by yourself and that will only come by practice. I am telling you, my dear friends, suppose, just pause the video over here, go and try to write the same code in your laptop without seeing this video. You will find it tough. You will find it very, 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 very tough. You will not understand what should I write, how should I write, this, that. But let me tell you, my dear friends, if you are finding it difficult, then you are lucky that you are at least trying, because it is supposed to be difficult. It is supposed to be difficult to write this logic. You have to think about the corner cases. You have to use your brains to keep the checks so that the attacker cannot misuse your API. Right? So see, you know what? I can just do like this, right? So see, all these things what I am doing is the validation. What I am doing from here, the code I have selected, all this is validation. A junior intern can come. Let me just cut this code, okay? So see, a junior intern can come and can make the API like this, okay? So the status is passed. Whatever the status is coming, status we have added over here. Whatever request ID is coming, I have just find it and I can do it. But let me tell you, these validations are very important to find whether the logged in user is the to user, if the status is interested, if the allowed status is accepted or rejected. All these things are something which you have to think about. That an attacker can misuse your APIs. Nobody will teach you this, right? But I'm telling you, I am constantly focusing again and again on security of your APIs, because this is the most important thing. You will have to learn by practice, learn by seeing me code. Learn by seeing me code and then try to implement the same thing in your APIs. Okay, otherwise your API will not be safe and any attacker can misuse your APIs. This will not be a production ready code if you don't write it properly by all the checks. Got it? Now, once I have written the code, now let us try to break our code, okay? Come on, let us just do it. Cool. First of all, let us test the happy flow. Okay. The happy flow is that Akshay has sent a connection request to Elon. Now I am trying to basically update it or accept it. Okay. So now let us just hit the accept button. If I hit this API, it says token not valid. So basically I'm not logged in, right? So I should be logged in. Now, should I log in using Akshay? Okay, so let us just try a negative case first of all. Okay, so let me see, this connection request is sent by Akshay, right? So if suppose Akshay is logged in now and Akshay is trying to accept the connection request. See, I sent the connection request and I am trying to accept it, right? What will happen? It should not be allowed. If I send this, it says connection request not found. Why? Because I am making sure that the to user ID is logged in user ID. But over here, the to user ID is Elon Musk. From user ID is me, right? But the to user ID is Elon Musk, right? So connection request not found. Okay, so that means Akshay cannot do it, right? So if I log out, let me log out from Akshay's account. If I go to logout API, I will hit the logout API, logout successful. Let me just log into Elon now. I am logging into the Elon's profile, right? As soon as I log in, it says login successful. Elon is logged in successfully. Once I log in, right now, let me go back and let me accept this connection request, and fingers crossed it should work perfectly fine. If Elon is trying to accept this connection request, it says connection request accepted and we have got the data back, right? If I go to the database, if I refresh it, we will see that Elon Musk has logged in and accepted my connection request. Got it? How cool was that? How cool is it, right? Isn't it? Isn't it cool? So we write the APIs like this, and this is how you have to make sure that people cannot mess up with your APIs. Okay. So suppose if somebody tries to mess up with this status, right? What else can they mess up with? Suppose if they are sending ignored over here, right? Maybe, or somebody is sending it something like that, ignored. Okay. So ignored, right? If they're trying to edit the status, if I hit this end, it will say status not allowed, right? If you will send any random thing XYZ, it will say status not allowed. We are rejecting the API from the front itself, right? Nothing else. It will not even hit our DB. Do you see this? When I do not allowed, I am just returning the API, returning the response from this line 70 itself. The code will not even reach line number 71 or 72. It will not go to the next line. It will reject and my API call will be saved. Sorry, this is the DB call. My DB call will also be saved. So I can just reject this from the start only. Got it? Now suppose if my status is correct, right? I say rejected, right? REJECTED. And I am trying to reject, right? The same request again, right? I have accepted the request and now I am trying to reject the same request. Should it be allowed? It will not be allowed. It will say connection request not found because the status is now accepted. And I am checking the status should be hardcore interested. There is no other status that can come over here. Only the status which is in interested, that can only be converted to accepted or rejected. That's it. Okay. Now, if somebody tries to mess up with our object ID, right? So it will again, so suppose if you are messing up with object ID, it will again throw an error, connection request not found, because this ID will not be correct. Okay. So our API looks safe. I feel that the attacker cannot misuse it now, right? And this is how basically you people write the logic. Now I can talk a lot about security and I can keep talking more over here, but I will talk more about it in the next APIs. Okay. For now, this is enough, right? But again, I am telling you, my dear friends, always make sure that you validate data and keep your API safe. Make sure that nobody is allegedly trying to, update something into your database. I have seen so many people writing production code by leaving very small things, very small gaps in their knowledge, right? So not the knowledge, sorry, basically these small use cases people don't handle, and this can like mess up your APIs. Okay. So always have an eye of an attacker and think about the attacker has access to this API and they can just do whatever they wish to. Okay. Cool. And you know what? Every line matters. If you just remove this line, right, then everything will break, right? So what I'm saying is every code, every word, every line that I am writing is very, very important, and there is a reason for writing it. And I am also teaching you the same way that every line, every word that I am writing, I'm trying to explain my thought process which is going behind. Why I am writing what I am writing is something which I want to tell you, and this is how I teach, right? Sometimes it gets slow also. See, we have taken a lot of time. It's almost 30 minutes since I am teaching you this API. I could have written this code in like 5-10 minutes also, right? How many, like it's so easy code, right? We are not even doing any complicated stuff. But what I'm trying to say is, I want to teach you, I want to give you this small, see, I can give you the code of this API, I can write the code over here, I can explain you the code, but I want to give you the thought process. See, as a teacher, I don't want to give you the code, I don't want to give you the logic, or I don't want to give you my explanation of what I have written. I want to tell you my thought process, because if you understand the psychology behind writing this thought process, writing this code, then you can write for any API. Not just review request API, you can write logic for any APIs. And that is why I am creating one after the other APIs, so that your logic or the thought process, whatever I am thinking, you can absorb that thought process also. Okay. So this is my teaching style. Hope you are liking it. If you like it, please give me a shout out on LinkedIn. Give us a shout out. Talk a little about Namaste Node.js on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on the social media. That would help a lot. Okay, now is the time for a break and time for giving you the homework. The homework is simple. You have to just make this API, okay, with all the validations. Homework is very simple. I am not giving you lengthy homeworks now. The homework is, right, write code with proper validations for this API, right? This API, post API. Cool. Now, let's take a break, come back, and then we will move on to our next API, and then we will move on to these APIs, right? Sending the connection request, reviewing the request are done. Now we'll move on to these APIs. Okay, so let's get back quickly. Welcome back, my dear friends. Hope you have implemented the connection request accept and reject API, right? That was an interesting API, right? Now let us move on to the next set of APIs. We will now start building these APIs, right? This API finds out all the connections. This API finds out all the requests that a user has received, right? So basically, these two are the get APIs. These were the post APIs that we were discussing. Let me tell you, my dear friends, the thought process of writing post API is different than the thought process of writing get API. Let me tell you a brief information, right? See, I don't want to skip anything which is coming to my head. I want to give you all the knowledge which is coming to my head. So the first thing is, whenever I look at an API, just look it from a lens that whether it is a post API or a get API. See, what happens inside post API is, user is sending some data, and that data is, think about, as a developer, think about that you are the guard, a security guard of your database, right? As a developer, you should think that you are a security guard of your database. What is the job of security guard? Think about a security guard outside a king's palace, right? Suppose if there is a king's palace, right? If there is a king's palace, or maybe you can think about the any other prestigious place where you have security guards. What is the job of security guard? The job of security guard is not to let any random people inside. Only authorized people can go inside. And the security guard also has a job that, okay, if someone is going from inside to outside, just make sure that nobody is collecting or leaking some information which is there inside to outside, right? So we are the guardian. We are the guard of the database as our developers, and you have to think from a lens that, okay, whenever there is a post API, this is a very important thing. Let me also write it down inside, give it a thought in the homework, that post API thought process, post API vs get APIs, right? So thought process. You have to develop this thought process. Let me tell you this, I have learned by experience. Nobody is teaching you all of it, right? I'm telling you, nobody will teach you all these things. This is something I would not call nonsense, but then it is something which is coming to my head and I'm just telling you because, whenever I write an API, I have this thought process. See, post API means the user are trying to enter some data into the database. Get API is I am trying to fetch the data from the database. How can a attacker exploit your post API? Tell me, how can an attacker exploit your post API? See, they can attack your post API by sending some random data into your API and then you mistakenly put that into your database. If you put some data into the database which was not supposed to be, accidentally, that is the attacker's opportunity. That is something you don't have to do as a guardian of your database. Whenever there is a post API, the thought process is very different. Whenever there is a post API, think of the attacker as this attacker can put something into my database and I should have an OCD that I will verify everything which is coming in my request. I will verify each and everything. I will make sure that I am 100%. Whenever you are writing anytime this thing, right? This is the most important line. Connection request.save. This line should be the second last line of your any API. Why? Because see, before saving, you have to do a lot of checks. All the checks at each level that data should not be validated, data should be sanitized, attacker cannot put anything random into your database. This should be the thought process. Okay? While writing get API, the thought process changes very differently. Because now the user does not pass any information, right? What the user can do is, see, the threat to post API is that user can maliciously enter wrong data into the database. Now, get API's threat is, the attacker's opportunity is that from the get API, you are getting some information from the database. Now, database should be very safe. Now, in get APIs, we will 100% make sure that we are sending only allowed data. We are very much sure about things that, okay, only the data whatever data I'm sending back to the user, it is 100% sure that the user is authorized, 100% sure that the user is, suppose if the user tries to request the connection request of Elon, suppose I am Akshay, right? I am trying to hit an API and I am trying to find the connection request which Elon Musk has got. That should not be allowed. We should be 100% make sure that the logged in user is a verified user and whatever he is requesting the correct information which is allowed in his scope. Because see, database is very open, right? Over here you have all the data. Data is the new oil, and a lot of people also think that the next world war will happen because of data, right? Right? There was a good joke around it that, okay, the next world war will not happen because of oil. The next world war can happen because of data, right? And data is very, very, very important thing, right? In today's world, data leaks can be very dangerous, and that happens because some developers, right, give the opportunity to access the data illegally, right? Or allegedly, right? And attackers can misuse that opportunity, right? So thought process is very different. Always make sure that in the get API, you are very sure about what you are sending back to the user. Okay. And now when we will write these get APIs, you will understand it properly. While writing get APIs, while I will write this get API, right, I will also tell you one more important concept, right, inside Mongoose, and you would love it, right? It is basically kind of making relation between two collections, right? We will make a relation and a reference between two collections. We will see it very soon. But let us just start writing our APIs, okay? First of all, before we start writing any API, we have to create a user router because this is a new thing, right? So let us quickly create it. We will go to routes folder. I will create a new, a new file. Let's call this as user.js because these are user routes. Is it? This is user route, right? Yes. So let us create a user router. How do you create a router? First of all, you have to get express from express, and then I will just create user router. Okay. Router is equals to my express.router, right? Write it yourself whenever you are doing this and remember what I am writing, right? You should remember all of it. All of the code you should remember. A lot of people copy paste all these things, but I want you to remember. And how I am writing, always try to write in the same fashion. What I will do is now I will just export module.exports. Make a habit of whenever you are creating a new file, first of all, write the imports, try to export it, right? Don't forget, because a lot of times you forget these exports. User router, I have exported it. Cool. Now what I will do is I can go to my app.js and include this router because this is very important. Just like we have request router, we can have a user router. Cool. This user router, and I have got this user router from my routes/user. Cool. Now I have imported it. Now our file is working correctly fine. Now I can start creating some routes. I can create my first get route, right? User router.get, and then I will write the name of the API or path of the API, and the path of the API is what? Where is my API list? Here is my API list. Let me close all these random files. Let me close this. Let me close homework. Let me close this. Okay, cool. So first of all, where is the path? So now there are 3 APIs that we have to make. But first of all, I am not making this API. First of all, let us find all the connection requests, right? For the logged in user. Right? This connection request, whatever connection request the user has received. Okay. Let us do this. Then the second API will be connections, right? Because I want to keep this, right? This API will be very easy. Connection will have a little complications in the query, right? So I will take it next. So this is the easy API. So let me make it first and let me write it first over here, right? Cool. So this is the first API we are making, and so the API is this, right? Let me just copy paste over here. Right, copy paste over here. And what I will do is now, first of all, what is the job of this API? You should 100% know about the job of the API. Get all the pending connection request, right? Pending connection request for the logged in user, right? Nothing more, nothing less. This is what the API does. Nothing more, nothing less. That is all the API will do. Okay. Now, first of all, I will need to validate whether my user is authenticated or not, right? Because this API cannot be called if the user is not logged in. Now I will be very sure that I am just, I am going to my request handler and then my response, and then I'm writing my request handler now, and I will make sure what is the logged in user. Who is the logged in user? Logged in user, right? Logged in user is my request.user. Got it. Now we will write some data over here, but let's first of all write the try catch block as we always do. Right, catch errors, and over here you can write that, okay, request dot status is 400, right? And then I can do a dot send, and then I can say that, okay, error, and then I can send the error message plus error dot message, and I can send it up, right? Cool. So I have got my try catch block. Inside that I will write all the log. I will write all the code, sorry, right? I have got my logged in user. What happened? Oh, I mistakenly closed my VS Code. Sorry. I pressed the shortcut of, closing my Visual Studio Code. My bad. Where is my dev tinder? Let me go back. Cool. Got my dev tinder over here. Sorry, my bad. Mistakenly I pressed, I was just trying to press something else and the keyboard shortcut pressed, right? Cool. Let me just start my server once again. This happens sometimes, right? Developers. Cool. The app is crashed. Why? User auth is not defined. Okay. Why user auth is not defined? Because we have not imported it. Let us just get my user auth, right, from require, and then I will get it from my dot slash middlewares, right, middlewares slash auth, right. It is there in the auth middleware. Is it? Let me save it up. Am I writing it correctly? User auth will come from auth, user auth, right? It is here in middlewares slash auth. Am I writing it correctly? If I go over here, dot slash middlewares and slash auth. Why it is complaining still? Why it is still complaining? Route.get requires a callback function but got a object. Requires a callback function. Did I not write it correctly? Route.get is the request handler. I am doing a try catch over here. Oh my god, why it is complaining? Why this is complaining? Can you find the error? It says requires a callback function. Route.get user router.get requires a callback function. I am sending the callback function. What is the issue over here? This is the user router.get, the path. Everything is fine. Why is it complaining? Okay, I got this error because see, this user auth is to be extracted from here, right? This user auth is needs to be extracted because see, I have done module.exports and I have wrapped this inside an object. So this needs to be extracted over here. The error message was very simple. It says the function, I was expecting user auth to be a function, but it got an object, right? Did you understand this? You should be able to read these error messages properly, but these things happen, these small things, okay? Now let us just try to write the logic. What I have to do now is I have got my logged in user. Now I have to make a get call from the database and get all the connection request of this logged in user. How will I find it? I will find my connection requests, request requests, and then what I will do is I will do a await, and then I will do a connection request, right? Connection request model, right? And I have to import that model. Sorry, let me just import it. Import this model connection request from require, not from middlewares, from the models slash connection request. Okay, so I have got the model from my connection request. Model is connection request, right? I have misspelled it. Let me go back. The file name is connection request. Cool. This should work now. I have got my connection request. So I will do connection request dot, and I want to find now, right? I want to find all the connection requests. This find returns an array. I don't have to do find one. Always be careful when you are doing find one or find. Find returns you an array and find one returns you one object. Okay, so I have to do find. I will find an array of connection requests. Now, what I have to find? So now, how will I find the connection request of particular ID? Suppose if I have to find whatever connection request I have got. So I will have to write in the query that my to user ID should be the logged in user ID. Simple, right? The to user ID should be the logged in user's ID, nothing else, right? Logged in user.id, and ID should be underscore ID. Okay, the logged in user's ID. Got it? This is, and it will get me all the connection request, right? Did I make sure that can the user find anything else by this? Can the user exploit this API? See, user cannot exploit our user auth. If the user is logged in by username password, if the token is valid, then only he will reach this line. I found the logged in user. Now I am making this query. Do you think that this query will only give me the to user, right? Basically, if my logged in user is a to user ID, then only you get the connection request, right? But over here, I will also have to pass a status, right? Otherwise, it will get me all the ignored, and maybe interested. So basically, I will also get the ignored ones, right? Suppose if see I did this, right? Let me just show it to you. Suppose if I write like this, so it will also give me the connection requests which have been ignored. But over there, the 2ID is me. Do you see that? Do you see a problem? So I have to make sure that the status that I am passing in, see, I am telling you that whenever you are querying something from the database, right? This is a database call. You can get a lot of random things from the database. So always make sure what data you are getting in, right? I have to find the pending connection request, not all the connection requests which I have got, right? Otherwise, it will also give you the people who have rejected you. Some people are interested in your profile, some people are ignored your profile. So I will also get the data of ignored if I don't write this. Shall I show it to you? Let me show it to you, okay? So first of all, let me send the response. And I can say again, right? Message. I can say the message as data fetched successfully. Data fetched successfully, right? SUCCESS successfully, and I can just send the data and I can send all the connection requests. Okay, so now let me show you an important thing, right? What is the problem with this code? So if I test it, let us first of all create the get request for this. Get user request. So I am just creating a new get API, right? Let me just duplicate this feed, and in the feed I am writing over here user/requests, and over here I can like user/requests. Cool. So these are the requests of users. Let me just move it up, and in that body I don't want to pass in anything. Cookies will go automatically. Let me just find who is the logged in user right now. Let me go to profile and view. Oh, Elon Musk is logged in. So let us check the requests of Elon Musk. Okay. So if I send it, Elon Musk has got this one connection request, and the status is accepted. Okay. The status is accepted. But this API is only giving me, this API should only give me pending request. Right? It should give me pending request. If you want, we can change the name also. I would say pending to be review, right? Pending review. Requests which are pending to be approval. Or I can say request received. Let's be more clear, okay? User request received. Okay? Let's be very clear about this API name, right? Let us keep this API name as this. Let me also change it in my API list, okay? Let's keep this, the received, and let me also change it over here. Because see, we should be very sure about what we are sending, right? Because these things can create a problem later on, because somebody else would be reading your code, should understand what I am sending. So see, it is also giving me the status accepted. Suppose if somebody sent the connection request to Elon Musk and somebody ignored the Elon Musk profile, okay, it will just give me the information about that also. So we have to make sure that over here we are also passing that the status should be pending, and pending means interested. The people who have sent you the connection request and the status is interested, that is when you will get these data. Cool. Now if I send this, it will give me empty because there is no connection request. But let us just try to, this is Elon Musk, right? So let us log into everybody's ID and send Elon Musk a connection request, okay? So suppose if Virat Kohli and MS Dhoni, right, send the connection request, and even Mark Zuckerberg send the connection request to Elon Musk, okay? So let us log in by quickly, right? Let me do it quickly, right? Suppose if the user Mark is logging in, M-A-R-K, Mark is logging in, send. Mark logged in and it is sending the connection request. How do you send the connection request to a user ID? Let's take the user ID of Elon Musk, 7BF. Okay, so over here, Mark is sending the connection request. See, Mark is interested in Elon. I have sent this. Let me just quickly log out. Then let me just go log in using Dhoni, right? This is Dhoni and then DHONI, Dhoni @123. Dhoni is logged in. Let me just, send the connection request. If I send it, Mahendra Singh is interested in Elon. Let me just log out again, right? And then I can log in using maybe Virat, right? Virat Kohli and VIRAT, right? VIRAT. I think the password is correct. Cool, login successful, and then I can go and send the connection request to Elon Musk, right? Now everybody has sent the connection request over here. Now let us just go and find out login using Elon, okay? Login using Elon @123. If I send it, login successful. Let us now go and check our connection request. If I send it, I got 3 connection requests. Now Elon has got 3 connection requests. This is what our API should return. But do you see an important issue over here? What we are sending is, we are sending the IDs of these users. But in the real world scenario, you would need the information about those people also, right? So suppose if the Elon Musk is checking its connection request, I should also know who is sending this connection request, right? Who is the person who is sending this connection request? I should know that information also. How will I get that information? How will I get that information? There are 2 ways of doing it. I will tell you one way. So see what you can do once you have got these connection requests. So I can loop over all of these connection requests, and one by one I can find out the information about all these IDs, right? From IDs, right? So this is the from user ID. One by one I can query my database and get the information about the from ID. So I can check. So see, I have got this data. I have got 3 objects over here. So one by one I will go and I will find who is this from ID? Mark. Okay, so the Mark data, and it will save it. Then I will find out, okay, it is Virat. Then I will save it. MS, it is save it, right? So similarly I will do like that, but that's a poor way of handling it. Let me tell you a better and a very good way of handling this. That is known as building relation between 2 tables or collections, right? So let us go back to our schema. What I will do is, now I will build a relation from this connection request collection to the user collection, right? How will I build this relation is, I will create a reference, right? I will create a reference. How do you create a reference? Basically, you write a function ref over here, right? You write what you'll say, a field ref over here, and you say that this from user ID is basically a reference to the user table, right? User collection. So now when I write like this, this means that this from user ID is the ID of from the user, right? From the user collection. Basically, this is creating a link between these 2 tables or these 2 collections. And MongoDB does it very well, right? MongoDB does it very well. So basically, whenever MongoDB is entering and creating a connection request or something, so it will manage a link between from user ID and the user which is there in the user schema. You just have to write one thing, one letter, ref user. That means now I am creating a reference to the user collection. So this is the reference to the user collection. Now this is a very important thing, very, very important concept. You should be aware about it. And now let me tell you the magic of this. This is why I love MongoDB. It just makes your life so easy. In very less code, you can write a lot of things, right? Now, once I have created this reference, all I need to do is, see, whenever I am making a call to connection request, I will just populate my reference now, right? Let me just show it to you. How do you populate the reference? What I will do, whenever I am getting these connection requests, it is giving me these data, right? So I have created the reference of this ID to my user collection. So I want my user collection data also over here. So I will just populate some more data over here, and let me just show you how do you populate it, and you will see a magic. Let me just show you how do you do that. I will populate what I will populate. I will populate my from user ID, right? See, inside all the data, this is the data. I will populate my from user ID from the reference, right? Now the reference you already know, it is the user collection. I will get the data, and over here I will pass the list of data that I need from that, right? Suppose if I need first name of all and I need last name of all, right? Last name of all. Cool. So I have done this. That's all, my dear friend, and you will see a magic very shortly. Okay, let me show you the magic. Let me save this file. Let me save this file. Everything is saved. Now, let us go back and hit this API once again. When I will hit this API, do you see an amazing thing? What database is doing is it is getting me all the user objects over here. And for all these objects, my from user ID is also getting populated, and the first name and last name is coming from my user collection. I don't have to write any logic. Just because I created a link between these two tables, these two collections, sorry. Just because I created the link between these two collections, I can just fetch and populate my from user ID. It is that simple, my dear friends. That simple. And I can also pass in, see, suppose if I don't pass this, right? Suppose if I don't pass this second parameter. Okay, I just write from user ID, you populate it. What will it do? See this. It will send me everything which was there inside the user object. It will just send me back. This is a very bad and pathetic way. Think about it. Elon Musk is logged in. Now he wants the connection request. So now what I am saying is this is known as I am getting the whole user object of Mark Zuckerberg, right? Mark Zuckerberg has sent, and even I am sending the email ID and password. Such bad thing it is, right? I don't want to send my email ID or password or any other random things to the user back, right? We don't have to do that. We just need to be very conscious about this is what I told you. It is even telling created at and updated at. That means when this Mark Zuckerberg IDs was created in our platform. This is what I was saying. This is the main thing about GET APIs. You have to explicitly make sure that you are not overfetching data. This is known as overfetching, and you should be very specific about what you are sending back. Okay, should be very specific about what you are sending back. Very important, right? So this is what it is. Now over here you need to filter. How do you filter this? You can either pass so you can pass something like this: first name, comma last name, and now it will just, you can pass an array, and now you can just get the first name, last name sent back, right? So it will just tell the Elon Musk that, okay, Mark Zuckerberg is somebody who has sent you the connection request. I'm not giving everything, all the details, even the password of Mark Zuckerberg to Elon, right? I should not be doing it. So see, there are two ways of writing this thing. This is a filter, right? This is kind of like a filter. Some places, some people write to like this is in an array like this. Some people write it in kind of a string. So basically, see, this is one way of writing it, right? Let me just comment this out, right? Just a minute. Let me just comment this out. Sorry, my bad. And over here, let me just comment this out. So either you can write like this, or instead of an array, you can pass a string also. But when you pass a string, you just have to separate them by a space, right? Both the things are same, right? If you write like this an array, or if you write like a string, both of them works the same way. And there are more ways of writing this, right? But I just want to tell you the basic things. It's your preference what you want to use. Some people like to use arrays, some people like to use strings. Let me just stick to strings because I find it easy, right? And then what else? All the information that you want to send, you can just write down all the information. So So see, whenever somebody is sending the connection request, now Elon Musk will see the name of the user. Then also let Elon Musk see the photo also, right? So let us also send the photo URL. And what else? I can also send the age. Basically, I can send everything, right? All the information, but not about also. Age, about, gender, and did I miss anything? Skills, sorry, right? Cool. So all these things are something which other people can see, but I don't want to send password created at email ID. So I'm not even sending email ID, right? Because email ID is something very specific. If I'm sending a connection request to somebody, I don't want them to see my email ID. No way, right? So let's just send it, and you will see all these things come over here, and for all the object it is populated. So this populate and ref are very, 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 very important. Populate and ref, right? Ref and populate. So if you'll go, just Google it. Inside the Mongoose also you will find, sorry, let's go to Mongoose and search for it, right? Let's find ref over here and populate. Okay, so you can find the ref. See this ref. So now here is the prototype of ref. Set the model that path refers to, right? Basically what this path is referring to. No, this is not the same ref, is it? Is it? No, let me just write Mongo ref populate. Okay, let me just give you the actual query population. Cool. Yep, this is the correct one, right? So see, in the schema object, okay, so now you can just add a ref. See, it is ref person. That means it is creating a link between this story schema and the person schema, right? Story schema and the person schema. It is creating a reference, right? And then you can just call dot populate and it will populate. Okay, so this is how you do it. Just read about it. This is the link, right? You can, let me just add the link to your homework also. But this is a very, very important thing, my dear friends. This will make your life very, very easy. See, there are other ways of doing the same thing also. You can just one by one loop over everything, make the database call. No. But over here, I am getting all the information from different tables using this one database query. This is kind of like a replacement for joins. Do you know SQL used to have joins, right? So basically, join lagate the hum, inner join, outer join, and then try to merge the data. There is one user table, there is one connection request table, and then you are joining that. You are doing the similar kind of a thing, right? You are joining the data from two collections using ref and populate. Okay, so as we go ahead, we will explore this even more. But what I want to say is always make sure that what data you are sending, this is the most important thing. And then you know how to populate, you know how to create ref. Very, very easy, right? Read about ref and populate, right? Read about ref and populate, and how do you create relation between the two, right? Populate, right? Ref and populate. And let me also tell you this, right? And then what we'll do, create API, right? What is that API? Get API for requests received. RECEIVED, right? Request received. RECEIVED. Sorry, my bad. My spellings are wrong, but user slash, okay? So this is inside user route. You have to create this API with all the checks, right? You'll have to make sure that you are doing all the checks. Your API is very secure, because see, if you do any small mistake in writing anything over here, right? If you don't write status interested, if you don't write this, everything will exploit your database, right? This database query that you are sending, this array, this object is very, 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 very important. This populate is very, 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 very important, because now is the time you are getting something out of database and sending it back to the user. So you'll have to be very sure about what you are sending. Okay, that's all. Okay, that's all for now, right? That's all for this API. I think this was your homework. Let's take a break, right? It's already more than an hour I am teaching you. So let's take a break, and then I will make one more API in this episode. Okay, let's create one more API. We have time. Let's create this connections API. It will not take much time now. I had to explain you the refs and populate. I have explained it already. Now writing this connection request API, sorry, the connections API will be very easy for us. Okay. So let's take a break and come back very soon. Welcome back, my dear friends. So hope you have created this request received API, right? So basically we are trying to fetch what connection request we have received, right? This is the API. This is the API. Now let us move on to the next API in the API list, which is the connections API. So basically this will give the connections, or basically the matches, right? Or the people. Suppose if I sent a request to Elon and Elon accepted it, now it will give me the information about who is connected to me, right? Who is basically my connection, who has accepted my request and everything, right? Now, let us just start writing it. I hope this API should be easy to write. Let us just quickly write it up. Okay. So now let me just use user router. You know whatever I am doing, because this is something I'm not explaining you once again. I have explained so many things. I need authentication also over here. I have got this. Now let me write the try catch block. Now you see me, right? This is how you write fast code in production. Okay. Cool. Error, and then I will send the response dot status 400, and I will do send, and I can just send the message back, message, right? And I can send err dot message. Cool. So I can send this message back. I have got my try catch block. I have also, let's get the logged in user is equals to request dot user. I have got my logged in user now. What I will do for the logged in user, I have to get all the connections. Now tell me, how will I fetch the people who are connected to me? Tell me. How will I fetch the people who are connected to me, or all the connection request, right? All the connections who are my connections basically, right? So how will I find it? Tell me. How will I find it? Well, how will I find it? Take a moment, pause and think about it. Basically, suppose Elon Musk has, suppose Akshay has sent and friend request to Elon, right? Now Elon Musk accepted it. So now Akshay and Elon both should be able to see that, okay, they have one connections. Elon has one Akshay, Akshay has one Elon. Now Elon Musk, maybe Mark Zuckerberg sent a connection request to Elon. Now Elon accepted that too. Now Elon has two connections, but Akshay has one, Mark has one, right? So how do you find that out, right? So you will have to find it from the connections collection, right? Connection request collection. So you will basically check for the status of accepted first of all, right? So we are only concerned about the status of accepted, and then we will check whether the logged in user is either inside the from user ID or the to user ID, right? How will I check it? I will write a database query and I will find out all the connection requests, right? Which are, which basically are accepted, right? And accepted, and then we have to make sure that they can either be the sender or they can either be the receiver, right? So basically, see, let me just tell you what I am saying. Suppose, see, Akshay sent a connection request to Elon, right? And then request is in accepted state, right? So, and then Elon can also be a sender also, right? Elon sent it to Mark, right? And that is also in accepted state. So what I have to check is, suppose if I am finding out all the connections of Elon, so I have to basically, I have to query my connection request database, and I have to check all the connection request where Elon is the to user or Elon is the for user, right? From user or to user, right? Elon can be from user, Elon can be to user, but the status should always be accepted, right? So let me just show it to you. How do you write that code? Okay, it's very, very easy. Don't worry about that, right? So what I will find is, I will try to find the connection requests, right? Constant connection requests, request connection requests, right? I will find all the connection requests, and I will find all the connection request await. I will write await over here. await, and I will find connection request dot find. See, now everything you write over here, you need to be very cautious, as I always tell you, that whatever you are sending inside find can make or break things up, right? So I have got, sorry, my bad. Cool. I have got this. Now I will write an OR query over here. Just think about it, right? Why I am writing the OR query. Let me just write it, then I will explain. Now I will say to user ID can be the logged in user ID, right? To user ID can be the logged in user.id, and status is equals to accepted, right? Either can be this, right? Either it can be this. Oh my god, did I miss something? Cool. I've written this. Or it can be like this, from user ID. From user ID. So see, now I'm finding out all the connection requests. I'm finding out all the connection requests where my to user ID and from user ID are accepted. Got it? I am trying to find the connection request where my to user ID and from user ID are accepted. Will it give me all connection request? Let us just see it once. How will I see it once? Let me just first of all just send some data back, right? Connection request, let's send the JSON, right? And I will just check if this works. Even I am not sure about it. Message, and then I would say connections find successfully found, or I would say fetch successful. You can write whatever you wish to, right? Or let me not even send the message. Why, right? It is, if the status is 200, that means I can just send the data and then I can send connection request. Okay. So I have sent the data back. Now it gives me all the connection request, right? It gives me all the connection request where the status is accepted or here, right? So let me just go back and let me go and let me try to hit this API and let me tell you what it returns, right? Let me just go get the data and let me just duplicate this API, and over here I am writing this, and over here also I can write this, right? So there are duplicate slashes, right? Let me remove this, and if I hit send, so it should get me one, right? This is the one basically, this is the one connection request which I found, because Akshay's connection request has been accepted, and I am logged in as Elon, right? Yes, I am logged in as Elon. So Elon has one connection, which is Akshay, but here I am not populating anything. Let us also populate, right? Why not? Dot populate, right? How do I populate? You know that, right? I would populate from user ID, and over here I can get the data of the same, right? Let us get the same data of my connections, right? Because this is my connection, I can send this data. You can even create a string out of it and you can reuse it. Let me tell you a good way. So you can create a constant, right? User public data, or I would say user safe data, right? This is the safe data. What is the safe data string? This is my safe data string. Okay, this is my safe data string, and I can just, use this safe data every time I populate. Okay, so every time I will populate, I will just send this string, right? This is my safe data, and I will use this, right? So you can do it so that you don't miss anything. And if you want to add something later on, you can add it, you can remove it, right? You can just write it at one place, and you are safe to send all this data. User safe data. Now if I go back, I got the data about this user, right? I have got the data, but I was expecting to not get the connection request information. I just want to get data about the from user ID, right? I just want to get the data from the from user ID, right? Because see, a user is requesting connections. So ideally I want the data of my array of the users, right? I don't want data about the connections, right? Why it is saying to user ID, from user ID, status, this, that. I don't need all that information, right? So what I can do is, once I have got this array, I can just modify the data accordingly. I can just write connection requests.map. I can map over that data, and for each for each row, right, for each row, I will just say, right, I will just send back row dot from user ID. Okay, I will just say row dot from user ID. So what it will do, it will just give me information about this, right? It will create a new map and it will give me information about this. Okay, so now if I do this, and if I send this data back, this is the data which I am sending back. Got it? Now if I will send back, if I send it, it will give me the data of the, see this array, and this array is of the users, right? These are all the users who are sending, who are my connections. Okay, now let us just test this API once again. This is good, right? Let us test this API once again, right? Let us maybe Elon has received the connection request, right? Let us see the received connection request. See, Elon has received connection request from Mark, and Elon has received connection request from Virat. Let us say that, okay, Elon has a connection request by Dhoni. So let us just take the request ID of Dhoni and let us accept this request. Okay, so I'm going to the request accept API. I am, I am requesting this, and let me just accept it or reject it. Sorry, accepted. Okay, let us accepted. Accepted, ACCEPTED, ACCEPTED. If I write it wrong, anyways, API won't work. If I send it, now connection request accepted. Right? Now Elon Musk has accepted the connection request of Dhoni. Right? Now if I go back and check my connections, if I hit send, it will give me Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Cool. So Elon has 2 connections now. Now suppose let us also check a negative case. Elon has review request pending, right? What are the requests received? Now if you say the request received, now there will be 2 requests pending. Do you see this? Mark and Virat Kohli. Dhoni is gone, right? This is how big applications work, right? See, we have created so many APIs, my dear friends, and now, can you think and imagine that, okay, I am doing everything which I will do on the website of DevTinder. I can do everything from my Postman itself, right? Everything is happening in front of you, but in the data and in the request and response format. This is how a backend engineer should work, like that, right? You should not be relying on the UI to test your APIs. Every testing should be done using Postman. Okay. Now I have got 2 requests. So let us just reject one request. Okay. Let us reject the request of Mark Zuckerberg. Okay. So if I reject the request of Mark Zuckerberg, how will I reject it? Review, and I can say rejected. Okay, I can say rejected. Okay, and I can add this request ID, and if I send it, connection request rejected. So Mark Zuckerberg's connection request is rejected. If I go back to my connections, it should not come. Let me send. Cool. Again, only 2 connections over here, right? The Elon has 2 connections over here. Cool. And if you say request received, Elon should have 1 request received, which is Virat Kohli. Mark Zuckerberg is gone. Cool. So this is how you do it, right? We have made this API working perfectly fine, right? And now I think it has already been 1.5 hours of this episode. Now there is not much time. This feed API is a little complicated, right? It has a little complex logic. So I will not be covering right now. It will need some time, okay? It will need some time to write the logic for this feed API. So I will do it in next episode. Okay, but in this episode, we have created these 2 APIs, and these 2 APIs were very, 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 very crucial. Okay, so now I can just, show you an important thing, give you the homework, create get API user connections. Okay, and what we have seen in this connections API was something interesting, that we wrote an OR query. If you did not understand this OR query, please think about it. Try to play with it. Try to play, what if I write and over here? Will it work, right? Try to play with OR and. I told you, I gave you the homework, right? I gave you the homework last time, that how do you see this? OR and query, all these queries, you have to go to this URL, right? You have to go to this URL and read all about these queries. Okay, in the left hand side you will have to find what is and, what is not, what is nor, what is or, right? Even go and check the other queries also. See this, all these things you should know. See, there are so many things, and I just really can't use everything over here, and I can't show you the demo of everything. Whatever will come in my way, right? Whatever will come in my way of building these APIs, I will keep on telling you, right? But I cannot go and teach you every API, because that does not make sense also, right? So this is all it is for this episode. Hope you are enjoying it. And now if you will see, my friends, we are kind of building a very big application. Our folder structure have become big. Our Postman has become very enriching, right? We have got so many APIs. I can log in, log out, do a lot of things, right? If I go back, if I try to log out and let me log in using maybe Mark Zuckerberg. So now the Mark Zuckerberg should have the connection of an Elon Musk, isn't it? Can we check? So suppose if the Mark logs in, right? Suppose if Mark Zuckerberg is logging in, right? And then he goes, and if he goes to the connections page and send, so he will see, oh, data is empty. Why? Oh my God. Okay, Mark was rejected, right? Okay, so Mark was rejected. Sorry, my bad. So who was accepted? I think Mahendra Singh Dhoni was accepted, right? I forgot. See, because I am being all of these users, right? That is why. So Dhoni was accepted. So if I go to Dhoni, if I log in using Dhoni, if I go and see the connections of Dhoni, it will say, yes, Mahendra Singh. Okay. I am seeing the connections of Dhoni and it is giving me Dhoni. This is strange. This is a bug, right? This is a bug. I am logged in using Dhoni and I have got the connections as Dhoni, right? So this is a bug. Do you see a bug? Why? I got the bug over here. See this. This is what I was saying. This is why you need testing. Now I was about to close this episode, but I have found a bug in my API. That is why I always test. So the bug in my API is I am always populating the from user ID. But what if the user did not come from user ID? Right? The user can also be from the to user ID. I have written a or condition over here. Isn't it? How would you check this now? How would you check this now? Tell me, my dear friends. See, either the user can be the from user ID or can be to user ID also, right? So over here, the Mahendra Singh Dhoni was the sender. And I am giving the sender detail back. Because see, I am just saying row.from user ID over here, right? So I am saying row.from user ID. That is why it is just giving me Mahendra Singh Dhoni back. Ideally, it should give me Elon Musk back, but the Elon Musk is inside the to user ID. If you did not understand this bug, I would request you to pause this video right now and think about it, that why this bug came in. And let us also try to solve it. So how will I solve it is, let us just see, first of all, I would need the information of from user ID and to user ID both, right? So I will have to populate both the data. So let me go back over here. Let me create the reference over here also, right? Let me create the ref over here also, because, right, I will just need it. Let me remove these comments. I don't like comments in my code. Okay. So I've removed this. Let us also fill the data of to user ID, right? From user ID. And then let us also fill the data of to user ID, right? If we need to, right? Let us also populate the data of to user ID. Populate, right? You can chain these methods. So don't worry about it. To user ID and user saved data, right? So I am just populating both these data from user ID to user ID. And now I have got this data. So what I will do now is, first of all, let me just show you what data we have got. Okay. So let me just send the connection request back. Let us go back, hit the API, which is the API connections. Okay. So if I hit the API connections, if I send this, so it will give me, see, information about whole information. See, it will give me the information about connection request about from user ID data also and to user ID data. Now, but we are very sure at this point that, okay, either the from user ID will be my logged in user, or the to user ID will be my logged in user. So what I will do, I can keep a check over here. Okay, so I can just check it over here. So how will I check it? Let me write it properly. I am not writing shortcuts, but let me save it. So what I will check over here, I will check for each of the row, right? For each of the row, if my row dot from user ID, right? Basically, if the row of from user ID, so basically see if the row of from user ID dot underscore ID, right? Dot underscore ID is equal to my logged in user ID, right? Logged in user dot ID. Now you must be thinking, Akshay, how is this code coming in your head, right? Because of practice. Because of practice, I am able to write it. If you are not able to understand what I am doing, just think about it. I am going slow and I am writing the logic. I am also telling you my thought process. So what I am checking over here, that, see, I have got all the connection request here, right? See, there was one connection request from user ID and to user ID, both of them were there. So Mahendra Singh Dhoni accepted state, there are both the users, right? Now, Mahendra Singh Dhoni can be either the sender or can be the receiver. Okay, can be the sender, can be the receiver. Now, what we do is I have to check which user to send back. So what I will do is, if the logged in user is the from user ID, if this user ID is equal to from user ID, right? So what I will do, I will send back the row dot to user ID, right? To user ID I will send back. Okay. So now I will check to user ID, I will send back. Okay. I will return basically from this object, right? Otherwise, I will return my from user ID. Now, this should work well, right? I'm 100% sure that this will work well. Or let me do the fingers crossed and let me just send the data back, not the connection request, data back. Okay. Now let me just send this over here. Still, it is giving me Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Why? Did I check it correctly? If the from user ID is equals to the logged in user, then send the row dot to user ID is equal to the logged in user. Did I save the file? Yep. So let me just, now this is getting complicated. Okay. So if the from user ID dot underscore ID is equal to logged in user dot underscore ID, if my logged in user is the from user ID, so I want the row dot to user ID, right? What is wrong with this, right? What is wrong with this data, right? Let me just send back if it is saying this, right? Come on. This is okay. I think the ID comparison is not correct. I think this ID comparison is not correct, right? Because you know, right? Why the ID comparison is not correct? You cannot compare two Mongo ID, two MongoDB IDs exactly like this, right? By triple equal to. You have to use a two equals, right? Two equals. But before using this two equals, first of all, I will also have to convert this. Or maybe, okay, let me just do a to string over here, if that works. To string is equal to. I think this should work. See, I am also experimenting. And now you see that, okay, this is how everybody writes code. Even I am not a very, professional coder that I will write all the logic in one go, right? It takes time, right? If I do to string, so it should work. Okay, and let me first of all also console log so that it is easier for me to check and debug, right? And I'm sending the data back. I'm just logging these console requests. So let me just go and hit this once again. If I do that, do you see Elon Musk is over here, right? So the Elon Musk is over here. So basically see, what I was trying to check was, I was just trying to compare over here these two object IDs, right? Like this. See, the ID is in this object ID form. So I have to call this method toString. So when you call this toString, so this will now check my strings inside the object ID. Okay, so I'm doing a string comparison and then it will check if it is equal and this should work. Okay, so this is the code that you write, right? Okay, now, it was a little complicated, right? This was a corner case which we missed. and testing caught this up. Now if I check, Elon Musk is working fine, but now I am having OCD. I want to create a new user and check everything once again. Okay, so let me just do it. Just give me a little moment, right? I know it has been a long episode, but I want to make sure that my API is correct. Because see, suppose I am a backend developer, somebody is a front-end engineer. I have to give them APIs, and my APIs should be working perfectly fine. Otherwise, somebody would report an error, right? So my APIs, as a developer, I should be very good at testing APIs, right? So let us just create a new user. Let's sign up a new user and try to send the connection request and see, okay, if everything is working fine. So cool. So I am just creating a new user. Let us sign up a new user and let's call this user as, maybe let us add a new user. Okay, let's say I am adding a new user. Which user should I add? Okay, let's add Donald Trump. Okay, I don't know why, but let's add Donald Trump over here, right? Trump@gmail.com. Last name is Trump. Sorry, TRUMP. Trump. And then I can say TRUMP@gmail.com. First name is Donald. And then I can say the password as capital P, Trump@123. Now Trump has been added successfully into the database. If I receive the profile, let us go to profile view. If I go to profile view, if I send, see, oh, I am getting Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Why? Because the token is of Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Okay, let me log into Trump, right? Okay, I was just confused. I was, in a panic state that why I am getting Mahendra Singh Dhoni. This is a very bad thing, right? But the token in my cookies is of Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Let me log in Trump. I have login successful. Let me go to profile view, hit send. It says Donald Trump now. Okay. So now Donald Trump will send send a connection request to Elon Musk. Okay. 7BF is Elon Musk. Cool. So Donald is interested in Elon now. Right? Donald has sent the connection request to. So if I go to Donald Trump connection, it should show me empty. Cool, it is saying empty. Now let me log in as Elon Musk and accept the connection request. Elon and Elon, right? Testing in the UI is better. I know testing in Postman is very tough, but as a backend engineer, make a habit of testing in the Postman. If everything will work in Postman, everything will work on the UI also, right? So right now we don't have an UI, but we want our APIs to be perfectly fine, right? So Elon is logged in now. If he sees his connections, so Elon already has Akshay Saini and Mahendra Singh as connection, Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Now, let's see received request. Received request, Elon Musk has 2 requests, Virat Kohli and Donald Trump. Now, I have got this request. Now I want to request, right? This is my request ID. I'm copying it and let me just accept, right? Accepted, right? I'm accepted and I will, send it, right? So connection request is accepted. Now if the Elon Musk goes and sees his connections, so he will find Donald Trump added over here, right? He will find Donald Trump added over here. And now what more information he will find is in the connections. If he will go and check his received, so Donald Trump should not be here in received. No, Donald Trump is not here. Let us log in Donald Trump's ID and let us just see TRUMP Trump @gmail.com, and here I will write Trump@123. Cool, right? Trump@123, and if I send it, Trump is logged in. Let us go to profile view and see if the Trump logged in. Yes, Trump is logged in. Now if I go to my connections, so Donald Trump should now have Elon Musk as connection. Everything is working fine, and it, when I test it, I just can see that how it will look in the UI, right? In the UI, it will be much more beautiful and you will see the images and the cards and everything. And I am excited to build the UI of the application also. But why I am not building the UI at this point of time is because I want backend developers to can work independently of the UI. There will not always, you will get a UI to test your APIs. Test your APIs like this, test your logic like this, right? And this is the good way. Now, once you test it, once we will make the feed API, in the next episode we will make the feed API. Then once our API is complete, right? These are the APIs which we are trying to make. Once these APIs are perfectly fine, then we will move on to building the UI. And let me tell you, my dear friends, all these episodes, we were working hard to build these APIs. All the code that we have learned, when you will see all of it working in the UI and your application working smoothly, you will feel so happy that I can't tell you, right? It will be very happy moment for you when you will see these APIs working on the live application in the DevTinder UI, right? It will be very happy moment for all of us. Okay, so that's all in this episode, my dear friends. We have done a lot of things, right? We have kept a lot of checks, and this is your homework. I have already given you homework. I was basically about to end this episode, but we found a bug in our code, and I've also told you, right, how to debug it. And I have actually found a bug live, and I have solved a bug live in front of you. I will not edit or cut or anything inside this video, right, in this portion. So I wanted to teach you that, okay, how do you debug it? If you face such issue, how will you figure things out? Sometimes you have to do console log and see that, okay, what is being printed. And think about, this comes with experience. Why this is coming from experience? When I did a triple equal to over here, I exactly knew why it's not working, because it's Mongoose ID, not the string ID. Okay. So always be careful about all these small things. The more you will write code, the better you will become. Right? Some people might not know what I am doing inside this map. Go read this code, try out yourself, and then figure out what this map function is doing, why I have written it. If you don't understand this, right, I also have a map filter reduce video on my YouTube channel. You will understand it properly, right? Go over there, watch that video. You learn along with me. See, I am teaching you advanced stuff, and this code, whatever I am writing, is the production ready code. Nothing is bad in it. Our project is getting big. Our project files, folder structure, everything is getting big, and each and every word and each and every line of code that I write, you exactly know the meaning of it. When you know exactly the meaning of each and every line and each and every word, it gives you a lot of confidence. And trust me, if you are coding along with me and you have coded this application till here, you might have already seen improvement in you, how you write code, how you think, how you become better. And you might have also fallen in love with Node.js and Express.js and MongoDB. If you have fallen in love with all of these tech stack, do let me know. Write a social media post and tell me, my dear friends. Please, if you're liking my teaching style, if you're liking these videos, if you're liking this project, then please, I tried to do something innovative. There are so many e-commerce projects and random things. I did not want to do that. I wanted to create something excited, something interesting, because this is an interesting problem to solve, isn't it? So, and there are new features that we need to build. So we are building all of these features. We are writing code according to our logic. So this is very interesting, my dear friends. So that's all in this episode. I would request you one thing. If you are liking these videos, then please give us a shout out on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on the other social media platforms. You can also share the learnings of this episode with all your friends over social media, right? You can make your notes, share your notes. You can help people in the Discord community. You can, if you are stuck somewhere, you can find help on that Discord community. We have a closed Discord community of the Namaste Node students. Please join that and do your job, right? And help everybody and seek help from there. Let's make a very good Discord community also. That's all in this video, my dear friends. In the next video, we are going to learn some amazing things. And I'm super happy to be able to teach you all of this. And, it just makes me very happy as a teacher. Okay, so thank you so much for watching these videos. Bye-bye, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.